What's going on, my guys? Lost and Found Dating channel, back at it again like we never left, coming at you guys with yet another dating topic. This week, if this is your first week, if this is your first time visiting the channel, welcome to the Lost and Found Dating channel family. Thank you for joining us. Happy to have you here. We definitely encourage you to subscribe to the channel, because once you subscribe, then every time we put out videos, my face will pop up in the screen with the thumbnail with me like this. And you'll see my lovely face in your screen, and you'll know he's about to drop some nuggets. So without further ado, let's dive into this week's topic. We got a juicy one for you guys this week. Let's get into it. All right. So this is a very highly debated, somewhat controversial topic that we're going to be talking about in this video. And today the topic is, should we hold ourselves accountable for the dating partners we choose? Now, without taking a long time to get to my answer, without taking a long time to give disclaimers and what I mean, I'll give the disclaimers after, right? What I'm going to say to you is, in my opinion, the answer is yes. We should absolutely hold ourselves accountable for the dating partners whom we choose. And what I do want to stress is that there is a difference between accountability and blame, right? I consider those two different things. To hold yourself accountable in a certain situation is very different for blaming yourself from a situation, right? And here's how I kind of conceptualize and think of things. When I'm thinking about accountability, how I think of it is your actions or lack thereof in some way contributed to the outcome, right? Holding yourself accountable means that your actions or lack thereof in some way contributed to the result, right? In some way contributed to the outcome that you are dealing with, right? When I think of blaming, it's a totally separate entity, and it means that you are at fault, right? It's really saying that you and nothing else, you are at fault, right? It is your fault. I really don't like that word fault. I think it's not a productive word to use in a lot of cases. It's not really a relevant word. It's not a word that kind of helps us address and deal with certain situations. I prefer to use the word accountability. Because, as again, in my eyes, what it means is that your actions or your inactions in some way contributed to the outcome at hand. So allow me, you guys know I'm big on just analogies and different examples and different scenarios. So allow me to give an analogy of how I kind of think of accountability, right, in terms of holding yourself accountable when it comes to certain things in life, especially when it comes to the dating partners you choose, right? So, hypothetical situation, let's say you and I are boys, right? We're boys, we've known each other for a while. Let's say my car is in the shop, got the mechanic working on it, and let's say I come to you and I say, hey man, I need to run some errands. I'm in a bind right now. Is it cool with you if I borrow your car for the day just to run some errands, and then I'll bring it back to you? And you give me the keys, you say, no problem, man. Here's my car. You lend it out to me. Let's say I go run my errands and take care of what I need to do, and I return the car back to you, but upon me giving the car back to you, you notice that there's a little smudge on the front bumper, right? Let's say you notice that there's a little smudge, a little smudge scratch, little paint chipped off right in the front bumper. And you confront me about it. You address the situation. You go, hey man, there's a smudge, in my front bumper of my car. What happened? And I go, sorry man, I was parking at the mall and I accidentally tapped, the car in front of me as I was parking. My bad, man, totally messed up. Look, as soon as I get paid, I'm gonna make sure, I give you the money for it. I'll make sure that I give you the money to cover the cost of the smudge, and we'll do it like that. I'll make sure I take care of it. And I say, cool. And you confront me about the situation and you go, hey man, what gives? You bring my car back and there's a smudge on the front of the car. What happened? And I go, look man, my bad dog. I was pulling into the mall and I was parking and I accidentally tapped the car in front of me. Sorry about that, man. Look, as soon as I get paid, I'll make sure I give you the money and I'll give you whatever it costs to repair the smudge. And, I'll make sure I take care of it, dog. I got you, man. I got you. And you're like, all right, cool, man. Sounds good. Now, let's say a couple weeks go by, right? And I hit you up again. My car is still in the shop. And I say, hey, man, I got a job interview. Really need to get there on time. Is there any way I could use your car? I know I borrowed it a couple weeks ago. Is there any way that I could use your car? I need to get the job interview. Help me out, man. Can you help a brother out? And you go, cool, dog. I'll lend you my car. You lend me the car. Go on the job interview. This time I return the car back to you, and you notice that there's a crack in the front mirror. And you're like, dude, first time you smudged it, now there's a crack in the mirror, man. What are you doing? What's going on? Like, look, man, my bad, dog. I was switching lanes. I was coming back from the interview, and I went into the divider. I drifted a little bit too far, and messed up the mirror, man. My bad, dog. Look, I went to the job interview. I'm hoping I get the job. Fingers crossed. As soon as I get the job, I'm gonna get you the money, and I'll make sure that the mirror is taken care of. I got you, man. And you're frustrated. You're like, all right, man, just whatever. When you get the job, give you the money, and we'll square it away. Cool. Now, a couple more weeks goes by, and I'm like, look, man, really need to borrow the car. I'm still waiting to hear back from the job. My car's still in the shop. I got a date with this QT. And I don't have a car, man. Anything you could do to help me out? And you're like, look, dude, I will lend you my car, but you cannot get a scratch. You cannot get a dent. You cannot get a smudge. You can't get a crack. Anything. Do not mess up my car. I'm like, I got you, man. I'm gonna drive super slow and be super cautious. You give me the car. This time, I'm running late to the date. I'm speeding, and I run into a hydrant, and now the car, I'm okay. I'm healthy. No serious injuries, but I totaled your car, right? Look at the situation that we're in. Now, the car is totaled, right? What are we gonna do about this? How are we gonna resolve this? So now the car is totaled, and the question is, who's responsible for it, right? Who is at fault for you not having a car? Well, at the end of the day, I mean, does it matter who's at fault, right? Sure, maybe legal ramifications and things like that. But what matters at the end of the day is you don't have a car, right? That you don't have a car, you don't have a means to do the things that you need to do to get to the place that you need to get to using your car. Why don't you have a car? Because you lent it out to me, right? People can say it's my fault, people can say it's your fault. At the end of the day, it's undeniable that your actions, right, you continuing to lend your car out contributed to the fact that now you don't have a car, right? It's pretty safe to say that if you hadn't lent your car out, you would still have a car to this day, right? So let's say, hypothetically, that's one situation, right? That scenario of continuing to lend your car out and continuing to confide in someone who was showing that they weren't a responsible driver, who was showing that they couldn't be trusted with your car, that's very different from you having your car and parking it on the side, parking it in a parking space, and someone driving up and hitting your car, right? In that situation, if your car is parked, someone drove up to it and hit it, you didn't really have any say, right? You didn't really have any choice in the matter of things. There's no way you're at fault. You didn't really do anything to contribute to your car getting hit. All you did was park your car, in a legal, not illegal. You parked your car in a legal parking spot, and now someone hit it, right? So you see how those are two very different situations. In one, you can see that, fault versus not fault doesn't really matter. I think everyone can agree that your actions, your decision to trust in me, your decision to confide in me contributed to you not having a car right now. So let's say I'm the person who had their car totaled by their friend, right? Is it fair to call my friend out and to confront them about driving my car and totaling my car? Absolutely. But you know what I also have to do? I have to call myself out as well, right? I also have to hold myself responsible and hold myself accountable and ask myself, okay, they smudged the bumper the first time, they cracked the mirror the second time. Why did I choose to lend them the car, right? Me choosing to do so ultimately contributed to that outcome. And the way in which I think it relates to dating in certain situations, some people, men and women, continue to confide in someone and to continue to put their trust in someone, similar to the person who continued to lend their car out, right? They continue to confide in them even when they obviously saw and noticed that there were reasons not to do that, right? A lot of men and women are in these relationships or in these dating relationships where they smell smoke, right? They see smoke, they feel the heat around them, and they don't decide to leave until their shirt is on fire, right? That's when they choose to leave the situation. That's when they choose to end the relationship. When I hear some of these different stories and different situations where a person is saying, I was with this person for this amount of time, and a couple weeks into a relationship they did this, and I decided to forgive them, and then a couple weeks or a couple months later they did it again, and then they did this other thing, and they said that they were going to work on it, but they never did, and I continued to trust them, and I continued to stay by their side, and then they ended up leaving me, and that's how they just abruptly left me, and I stayed by their side, and I gave them my trust and all these different things. Do I have compassion for that person? Absolutely. I have a significant amount of compassion for them. I don't relish in the idea of hearing people in these bad situations and hearing people in these extended, long-term relationships where they feel like they were mistreated or feel like they were taken advantage of. Absolutely. I don't, agree with those kinds of things, and I have compassion for those kinds of people. At the same time, if it were my friend, and if you were telling me the situation, you were telling me how you were in this relationship and this person was mistreating you and taking advantage of you and bullying you and not being fair to you, I would have compassion for you. But at the same time, I would look at you, I would go, come on, bruh. Like, come on, man. You know you were slipping by continuing to deal with this person, right? You were slipping by continuing to entertain this person and be in a relationship with them, right? Is that to put you down or to make you feel bad? Absolutely not. But it's to address and confront your actions, right? It's to hold you accountable and say, hey man, there were ways in which your actions or lack thereof were contributing to the situation that you were in. There were ways in which your actions or lack thereof contributed to that ultimate outcome. Now, that's just me, right? I understand not everyone is going to agree with that approach. But why is that my approach? Because my ultimate goal is to help you, move forward into happiness, right? Help you become a better version of yourself, right? Help you become a stronger version of yourself. That doesn't mean that I, deny how you were treated or deny how the other person behaved towards you. If the other person was unfair and unjust towards you, right, let's acknowledge that. Let's call it what it is. But at the same time, I think the next logical step is, okay, yes, what the person did was wrong. Yes, they weren't treating me fairly. Yes, they did not give me the treatment that I wanted in order to be happy. But that being said, were there ways in which I myself made myself vulnerable to that kind of treatment, right? And if so, how do we change that, right? How do we adjust that to prevent it from happening again in future relationships? If I let you just go, yeah, man, she was a messed up person and she was this and she was A, B, C, and D, and that's why I'm in this predicament. And, she's just a messed up person and that's all it is. That's the bottom line. Sure, I can agree with you, and sure, it feels good to vent. Sure, it feels good to give you that compassion, but it can't just be compassion, right? If all I do is give you compassion and maybe don't help you in certain situations understand how your behavior contributed to it, if it did contribute to that outcome, it doesn't encourage you to change, right? It doesn't encourage you to change your habits so that that outcome doesn't occur again. The reason why I think a lot of people don't want to go into that territory, the reason why I think it's a lot easier for folks to just, blame the other person or blame it on, the opposite sex entirely, is because it's uncomfortable to look at a situation and say, hey, even though I may have been wronged in this situation, or even though I was wronged in this situation, maybe there are certain patterns and certain behaviors and certain things that I am doing that are enabling, right, that are making me susceptible to that kind of treatment. It's uncomfortable to kind of look within and have an internal, locus of control and say, okay, yes, they did something wrong. Yes, their behavior was not fair, but, in what ways did I contribute to it? In what ways was I maybe enabling it? And again, making myself susceptible to that. I don't think that's victim blaming. I don't think that's, blaming the person who's being wronged or who's being treated unfairly. I think it's just a matter of looking at ways in which they can hold themselves accountable and learn from the situation, right? Not just say, okay, this was a bad person that did a bad thing and they treated me badly, but having kind of a multi-directional way of looking at the situation and saying, okay, what was my behavior? What were my actions? Could I handle them differently? Again, why? Because our intent is to get better from the situation, right? Our intent is to heal from the situation and prevent it from happening again if we are to enter other relationships. So that is my thought pattern. That is my rationale when I say that I do believe people should hold themselves accountable for the dating partners they choose. Yes, there are going to be some scenarios similar to where I said, if you have a car and your car is parked and someone just runs into it, there's nothing you could do about that. Yes, there are going to be some situations where you are entering the situation and you don't really have any say, or you don't really have any control, or you couldn't really have done anything. The person just kind of behaved in a certain way. Yes, there are going to be some of those scenarios, but I think a lot of, more than people would like to admit, there are some situations and scenarios where people could offer to hold themselves accountable more, and it would actually help people heal and move forward. And again, an emphasis on that moving forward phase, right? What do we do next, right? If your ultimate goal is to be able to date, have a fulfilling dating life, is to be able to have a relationship, right? It can't just be about, holding on to what this previous person did, but it's about, okay, what did I do and what was my actions and my behavior, and how can we make adjustments in that realm as well? So, hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got some value from it. If you did, definitely click that like button. Feel free to comment, share your thoughts, share your opinions. Whether you agree or disagree, we welcome all opinions as long as they are constructive and helping move the narrative forward. So thank you for tuning into the channel. Double salute. Wipe me down. Catch you guys next time. Peace.